Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast.
Today we're looking at Marvell technology.
As usual, before we start, subscribe, like, and comment to this video to support the show. And if there's a specific company you want us to look into, leave it in the comments below.
So let's get into the analysis. Our mission here is to really break down the pros and cons of investing in this semiconductor powerhouse. We're focusing on its role as, well, what some are calling the foundational architect of the AI era.
And you can see that shift everywhere in the financials, right? I mean, this isn't a general chip company anymore. It's an AI infrastructure play, full stop.
Absolutely. The recent numbers just spell it out. They just reported Q3 FY26 net revenue. It hit a record high of $2.075 billion.
Which is a 37% jump year over year. In this environment, that's huge.
It is, but what's really crucial is where that growth is coming from. The data center revenue is now the undisputed core engine. It jumped to $1.52 billion in that quarter.
So that's what, about 73% of their total revenue?
Exactly, and that segment alone grew 38% year over year. For you, the listener, that figure just underscores their absolute centrality to this whole AI build-out.
And they seem pretty confident looking ahead, too. Management's guidance is for, what was it, over 25% growth in data center revenue for next year, for FY27.
Yeah, and they're pointing directly to the AI build-out, and this is key, the increasing amount of their silicon content per AI system. So the projections are strong. We're talking total revenue growth of almost 42% for this fiscal year, and another, robust 22-ish% for FY27.
Okay, so the big question then, is this scale actually translating into profitability, or is it just a land grab for market share?
The margins answer that pretty definitively. Their non-GAAP gross margin was 59.7%.
Wow.
Yeah. And their operating margin over the trailing 12 months, the TTM, that's sitting at a really robust 31.75%.
So over 30%. That's the validation point right there.
Yeah.
It confirms that all this AI scale,
Yeah.
it isn't just a vanity metric. It's real earnings power.
It is. It shows their products command a serious premium.
Which brings us to their competitive advantage, their moat.
Exactly. And this is where the technology really dictates the economics. They have a dominant position in, well, the plumbing of the AI world, high-speed connectivity.
We're talking about optical interconnects, right? The DSPs, drivers, all that stuff.
Yes, the optical DSPs, the drivers, the TIAs. And just to clarify for everyone listening, those components, the digital signal processors and transimpedance amplifiers, they're the essential translation layer. They turn electrical signals into light and back again. And I mean, just staggering speeds inside these AI clusters.
So they let all the GPUs talk to each other without creating a bottleneck.
Precisely. It's the nervous system. If those parts fail, the whole system just chokes on its own data. It's mission critical.
And we're seeing that dominance show up in the numbers. There was double-digit, quarter-over-quarter growth just in those optical products.
And their pipeline for data center switches is also looking extremely robust. We've seen really strong demand for their 12.8T switches, but the future is. It's all about their new 51.2T switches.
That jump from 12.8 to 51.2, that's not just a small step up.
No, it's a four-fold increase in capacity. It's about future-proofing the infrastructure. By delivering these now, Marvell is letting the hyperscalers build these massive AI clusters that are going to be sticky for, the next 3 to 5 years.
And that stickiness is key for customer lock-in. These networking components, they have these extremely long design cycles, right? They require deep partnerships with the big cloud customers.
Right. It creates huge switching costs and these really powerful ecosystem moats. Management thinks data center switch revenue alone will get over $500 million in FY27, just based on that stickiness.
Then there's the other big growth area, custom silicon.
ASICs.
Yeah, ASICs, or application-specific integrated circuits. They're targeting 20% growth or more there in FY27. And that area is intensely sticky because they are literally co-designing the chip with the customer. And we have some pretty solid validation of that model, don't we? Analysts confirm their ongoing role in Amazon's Trainium chip designs.
That's right. It's a perfect example. This cloud-optimized model creates these embedded life cycles with the hyperscalers. It's how they avoid being cut out when a big customer wants to design their own silicon. They're not competing. They're collaborating.
And their order book shows just how deep that relationship is.
It does. They already have purchase orders that cover the full year forecast for a major next-gen custom processing unit with a large cloud customer.
That kind of committed backlog gives you, as an investor, some remarkable visibility for quarters to come.
So let's shift from the product moat to the balance sheet. Given this tech advantage, how is management positioning the company to capitalize on it?
Well, their actions speak pretty loudly. They've authorized a huge $5.0 billion share repurchase program. And they're also paying a 6-cent quarterly dividend.
And with institutional ownership around 83.5%, that signals a lot of professional confidence in their cash flow, even while they're investing so aggressively.
Okay, but let me challenge that for a second. A $5 billion buyback, is that really the best use of capital right now? I mean, with R&D and photonics accelerating and this big celestial AI acquisition to fund.
That's a fair question. The thinking seems to be twofold. First, the buyback offers some structural support for the stock and it enhances future EPS growth. Second, and maybe more importantly, it's a signal that management thinks the stock is undervalued relative to where they see cash flow going. They believe they can do both. They can fund the reinvestment and return capital to shareholders.
So they're funding that aggressive reinvestment at the same time.
They are. They're pouring money into high ROI areas like AI interconnect, those custom ASICs and photonics, feeding the moat we just talked about.
And now that brings us to the biggest strategic move they've made recently, the $3.25 billion acquisition of Celestial AI.
Yes. And this is way more than just buying revenue. They're calling it a transformational milestone.
So how does it transform them? What does Celestial bring to the table that's worth that kind of money?
Celestial is a huge play in next-gen AI interconnect, specifically something called co-packaged optics. It's the process of putting the optical component right on the same chip package as the processing silicon.
Okay, which increases speed and cuts down on power consumption.
Dramatically. They're essentially buying the future of speed and integration. It ensures they stay the market leader as speeds scale up towards, the petabit level.
And the market seems to be responding really well to all of this.
Oh, for sure. Recent sentiment is heavily skewed bullish. The company is now firmly in that top-tier conversation, one of the AI semiconductor powerhouses poised to dominate 2026.
You can see it in the price action, too. The stock's been in a solid upward drift. There was that pullback after earnings, but a lot of analysts saw it as a buying opportunity, framed the mid-80s as a good support zone before it rallied again.
Right. And the consensus price targets are centered around, $111 to $112. That implies some pretty substantial upside from where it's trading now, with some interim resistance maybe in that $95 to $100 range.
And there are some immediate catalysts on the horizon.
There are. A major bank has put the stock on an explicit upside catalyst watch leading up to CES in early January.
The CEO has a fireside chat scheduled there.
Yeah.
The market is definitely expecting details on new networking products, PCIe 6, and definitely the roadmap for Celestial AI.
That's a huge near-term event.
Definitely. And beyond that, they keep building traction elsewhere with things like their Golden Cable Initiative and their PCIe retimers.
Yeah, they're really making sure that every piece of high-speed data transfer in the data center relies on their tech in some way.
Okay, but we have to stay balanced. We've laid out a very strong bull case. Let's talk about the counter thesis, the risks.
For sure. The landscape is incredibly competitive. There's always the concern about competition from other chip makers and the big risk that hyperscalers could expand their in-house ambitions.
The concentration risk, that's the big one in this industry.
It is. But those deep co-design relationships, like the Amazon training one we mentioned, they really mitigate that risk. Marvell is embedded in the customer's roadmap. It's a partnership, not just a transaction.
Okay, what about execution risk, that $3.25 billion Celestial AI deal? That's a huge integration project.
It is, and there's always risk there. The immediate concern is probably financial lumpiness. These custom ASIC and photonics programs are really capital-intensive, and revenue can be choppy until they hit mass production.
So some near-term pressure on margins is possible.
It's certainly possible as they ramp up R&D, but you could argue the risk of not buying Celestial and falling behind in co-packaged optics was actually greater.
And their current profitability gives them a pretty strong buffer to work with.
That's the key. With profit margins over 30% and that big $5 billion buyback, management is clearly confident they can fund these aggressive investments and reward shareholders.
So overall, the risks seem manageable, especially in the context of this AI supercycle that feels like it's still in the early or middle innings.
I think so. The strong growth projections for FY27 act as a major tailwind that seems to outweigh a lot of the near-term fears.
So I guess the core question for any investor isn't really if Marvell will benefit from AI. That seems settled. It's whether its leadership in interconnect and custom design can keep pace with the crazy demands of companies like Amazon. Can they make sure their role as the nervous system stays indispensable as we evolve from terabits to petabits?
And if you found this analysis helpful for your portfolio decisions, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast for all our future episodes.